no, I tried to get out as quickly as I could. Oh, I know, there's so much going on today. I want to introduce you to the visiting. Just in the sanctuary. This is great. Well, we have some here. Please come up onto the labyrinth if you're able. If not, we have seats for you. We just want you to be comfortable, and hopefully everybody can hear. All right. So, officially, welcome. Who am I? Well, some of you know me, some of you don't know me very well. I'm Alice Jacobs, and I'm the Labyrinth coordinator for over 2 years process. And I was relentless in my nagging, so I do you're going to meet Gunnar. Those of you who don't know him, he's my husband. And I just wouldn't let him off the hook. And we'll learn more of the story of the labyrinth from the village people who contributed to its creation. But I want to start out today with a special prayer. This is actually from a rabbi named Harold Kushner. Let the rain come and wash away the ancient grudges, the bitter hatreds held and nurtured over generations. Let the rain wash away the memory of the hurt, the neglect. Then let the sun come out and fill the sky with rainbows. Let the warmth of the sun heal us wherever we are broken. Let it burn away the fog so that we can see each other clearly, so that we can see beyond the warmth and brightness of the sun melt our selfishness, so that we can share the joys and feel the sorrows of our neighbors. And let the light of the sun be so strong that we will see all people as our neighbors. Let the earth, nourished by rain, bring forth flowers to surround us with beauty. And let the mountains teach our hearts to reach upward to heaven. Amen. So, before our Japanese founders who started the church were here, the land that we now currently stand on, where this labyrinth was built, was roamed by the Maidu tribe. And so I want to do an acknowledgement to those people. I acknowledge that this land, which is named for the Maidu, is the traditional and ancestral homeland of people who were here long before us. I recognize and respect the enduring relationship that exists between many indigenous peoples and their traditional homelands. I respect the sovereign relationship between tribes, states, and the federal government. As we gather in this space, we recognize that we are connected with one another through the winds that blow air into our lungs and through the waters that move deep into the earth and up into the sky through all the directions. I acknowledge that the ground joy to be here with you today. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Labyrinths have been around for thousands and thousands of years. Some even say that they go back 60,000 years, that they have found shards of pottery and carvings
pieces of labyrinth drawn on them. They have been used in almost every culture and in every country throughout the ages. And they are a spiritual practice, they are a personal practice, they are a practice for healing and for enlightenment. People use them. Although it also went out of disuse there in that cathedral, and it became covered with chairs, so people couldn't even find it. Back in 1991, Reverend Lauren Artress, who is an Episcopal priest, and at that time she was at Grace Cathedral in San Francisco, she got introduced to a labyrinth, and she started to research them, and eventually went to Chartres in order to see the labyrinth in the floor of the cathedral. That began a journey of promoting labyrinths in our modern time. And she has been a big instigator of the use of labyrinths in these our modern time in the last 30 years, I guess that is. And she has developed a nonprofit that helps to build labyrinths and promote learning how to use the labyrinth in all different kinds of situations, both in churches, but also in...
When they came back, several of them were floating the idea of putting a labyrinth, and looking around the church property, they said, well, out here would be a good place. Except at that time, there had been hardly anyone ever that came to this part of the property. There were many, many church members that had never, ever been out on this part of the property, except for some of the wonder workers who'd been out picking up branches and mowing the weeds and that kind of thing. And for a significant portion of the year, this was a marsh. You couldn't even run a lawnmower through here. And some of us said, no, that's not a good idea to put a labyrinth out here because it's just marshy and would be unusable. And so that was the genesis for the idea of doing something with this part of the property and putting in the Serenity Path. And so the Serenity Path preceded or took over the notion of a labyrinth. After the labyrinth was built, though, something interesting happened out here. This has not been terribly marshy since the labyrinth path went in, and so it became a little more doable. And when Gunnar and I started working on this, we thought, well, we wanted to level the spot off, and we started out by digging out this side and dragging the dirt over there, and that was a whole lot more work than either of us were interested in, and so we started bringing in dirt and building up this edge. So that's kind of how this began. And I was surprised when Gunnar wrote the grant, but as many times as he's been a part of the projects I've been involved in, I said, Gunnar, I'll give you a hand. So thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Because of you, many people will have benefit of this labyrinth for years to come. We owe you a lot of gratitude. I get emotional. We also want to acknowledge David Camp, because David is now the Labyrinth Assistant Maintenance Coordinator. He was voluntold of this position. Voluntold. And he couldn't be here because he's coaching his kids' game. I think it's a baseball game or soccer game. But anyway, you will tell him thank you for his voluntold role. And he assists Gunnar when Gunnar's traveling or unable to get over to maintain the labyrinth. As you walk down this path here, you pass a mosaic, which was hanging on this wall. And the mosaic is part of the Labyrinth grant. It's a mosaic of peace. Why does it have that title? Well, first of all, you will notice the design of the labyrinth is a connection to the founders, the Japanese founders of this church. It's got the koi that continues the theme that's in our Tri Creek bed, which Dave informed me the dry creeks with the koi were also constructed down at Manzanar, which is in the middle of the desert. So they wanted to have something that connected them to their homeland. And so that's why our church has this dry creek. It's on this side. As you walk up to the fellowship hall, you'll all pass it, and there's ceramic koi swimming in the dry creek. So you'll notice the koi are swimming around the lotus. In many cultures, the lotus is a symbol of growth and introspection and new beginnings, and we want people to have those experiences as they partake of the labyrinth. So this particular mosaic was ordered online. It was designed by a Ukrainian artist in the Ukraine and shipped over to us during the pandemic and in the midst of the Russian-Ukrainian war. I don't know how that was even possible, but when we ordered it, we thought it was coming as its finished form, as you see here. Much to our chagrin, when it arrived, it was all in pieces. And Gunnar and I, we don't like jigsaw puzzles, and we're not good at putting things together. And so we were explaining about this, and we have a dear friend who's with us today, who's an artist from Lake Wildwood, Pam Kinsey. Come on up here. So I wanted you to meet Pam. Pam took these pieces, and I don't know how many there were, over 100, I think. And she laid them all out. There was a pattern that came with these pieces. And she laid it all out, put it together for us, and she donated her time. So please acknowledge her. And then originally, when we designed Labyrinth, it was going to be, when you conceived of it, it was going to be a different shape, and I had envisioned this mosaic going in the center of it, and we would all walk on it, and it would somehow survive the weather, our footprints, wheelchairs, walkers, whatever, which was kind of unrealistic. But Pam advised us about how it might be possible, and she was really so helpful. And we could have never put that thing together on our own. Gunnar and I have no skill in that regard. And we